Hi, welcome back to Hillock Kennels. In today's episode, we're going to introduce Cooper to a tracking lead. And anytime I introduce a new element to a track, I always back up in complexity of the track that I've laid. In the last video, we did a 2-hour, 200-yard track. Well, today it's going to be about 200 yards, but it's only going to be an hour old. I do that because I want the dog to have an easier time on the track so he's not focusing on the new element as much. So we'll see how that goes. Now, tracking leads. Tracking leads come in all kinds of materials. Rope, leather, such as this one's a nice fancy leather tracking lead. The biothane leads, it's my personal preference. This one's from Permatac. And, find a material that works for you. For me, that is the biothane. And the reason being is for me, I don't feel like it catches as many briars. I don't feel like it catches as much scent. If it drags on the ground, it's not getting soaking up water or soaking up that blood and getting a strong smell to it. So that's my personal preference. But a lot of people don't like it. So find something that works for you. Find a material that works, that you can handle, and then go out and practice with it. Remember, tracking is especially on lead, is a team sport. It's you and the dog. That lead is your communication tool, and your responsibility is to help that dog get through the forest and keep them untangled, and hold on to that lead and feel what's going on. Well, if you're always laying out in an open area like this, then it's real easy. Get out in the thick areas, lay those tracks where you're going to have to work just as hard as the dog, where you're going to be going through the brush, where you're going to be ducking, you're going to be turning, you're going to be going around trees where there's a possibility of getting tangled up. Get out there and practice, because you have just as much responsibility of learning how to work the lead as the dog does learning how to track. There's some of you out there that's going to look at it and go, well, I'm not going to use a tracking lead. Now, my dog's going to be off lead. I'm never going to put him on lead. Well, never say never. Are you working around houses, around roads, smaller property lines? There's a whole varied reasons why you might. But no matter what style you're going to end up with, I always recommend starting a dog on lead. And the reason being is you have control of the dog. If the dog is, a live animal runs out across and you've got a dog off lead and you're practicing, well, then all of a sudden they're going and chasing. Well, you may be hard to get them back. Or they get offline and they start 200, 300, 400 yards off, and you're trying to call them back and can't get them back. By having them on lead, you can control them. You can refocus them. They get off track, you can bring them back to the track. A live animal crosses the track, you've got control. You can stop them, you can put them in a down stay, you can get them calmed down, you can refocus them, get them back on track. So no matter what working style, I always recommend starting on lead. Find it. Find it. Good boy. pressure on it and seeing what he's doing. Right now he's stopping every time he feels it tight, but it doesn't seem to be bothering him too much. Find it in here. Find it in here. Good boy. Find it in here. There you go. Good boy. Boy. Good boy. Yes. Oh, it's a good boy. Oh, it's a good boy. Yes. Good boy. Yes. What you got? Huh? What you have? Good boy. What you have? Yes. Oh, it's a good boy. Yes. Oh, good boy. Yes. Oh, you find it? Yes. Yes. Well, I thought that went pretty well. Cooper did fine with the lead. When I picked it up a little bit, he felt the pressure on the lead and a little bit of tension. So he slowed down a little bit. He turned around to see what I wanted. But as soon as I gave him the command to track, he went right back to work. And tonight we had an extra distraction. The goats came home, as you can see. The goats are home, and the goats are usually a distraction to Cooper. He wants to bark at them along the fence and watch them, but he ignored them. He's starting to understand that from point A to point B, there's something to find. And again, we moved locations. I don't ever want him to get used to the same area, tracking the same track over and over. We had the wind to our backs again, so he worked with his nose down. But in typical puppy fashion, he's working a little fast, but that'll come with time. Once we start holding on to the lead and holding him back, we'll set the pace. I'll only let him track as fast as I want to walk, and eventually he'll get used to the feel of the lead and the pressure. And when working a lead, I like to work with my lead up and off the ground. Some people like a nice swag in their leads, and you know that swag in the lead that some people like. To me, sometimes when a dog gets tangled up and they feel the tug, they feel like that the tracker is pulling them back. Well, I like to work with a tight lead. That's my communications. That's my ebb and flow. As long as my arm is out and tight, then I know the dog's tracking. If I ever feel that pressure ease off, I know the dog's slowing down or stopping, and I stop. That way I'm not pushing the dog. And we'll see this when we start doing real tracks. We'll see how I work the lead, I'm sorry. But for now, overall, I think this went well. At first, I thought maybe the lead was going to be a little heavy for Cooper, but he had no problems at all with that. Again, the only thing that I noticed tonight with the introduction to the lead was that Cooper felt a little pressure anytime I picked it up. But other than that, the lead didn't bother him at all. Cooper got after the goats there, and I couldn't get him stopped. And one of the things that I don't want is I don't want a young dog used to running live game, and because that's a lot, you know. Let's face it, chasing live game is a lot more fun than an old cold track. So just another reason why to start a dog on lead and not off. When they're young like that and you can't stop them, they don't have the obedience just yet. It's by having them on that lead, you can get them stopped. You know, what I'm not showing in these videos is all the obedience that we're doing off camera. You know, every time we go in and out of a door, every time that we go in and out of the crate, every time that it's feeding time. Every one of those is an opportunity for obedience training. And everybody in the family has to do the same obedience, the same thing. If one starts letting them, just free whenever they want and through any door that when they want, and the other's trying to train them not just to run through a door, you're being counterproductive. So it may be your dog, but it's the family's responsibility to do the obedience training. Everybody has to do it the same. Everybody has to be consistent. Training a tracking dog is not that hard. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of patience, but it's a lot of consistency. It's doing it over and over and over. It's just like my starts. I always start the same way. I'm always facing the dog. If I had my back to the camera, then it wouldn't be a very good video. Well, it's the same thing when I'm looking at a hit site. I'm facing the dog. I'm interacting with the dog. I'm making eye contact with them to say, hey, this is the area that I want you to look at. This is the area that we need to start searching. It may not be the exact spot, but the hunter says, this is where they were standing at. Well, this is where I'm going to start the dog. And the dog knows, okay, in this spot, we're going to start searching. Well, that's the reason why consistency. I always start the same way. I always use the same words. Find it. Don't use okay. That's the one word that you don't want to use, because so many times in just general conversation we say okay. Well, in obedience, that's the one word that you don't want to use. So find you a word though. Find it. Search. Dead deer. Whatever. But be consistent. Every time you start a search, use the same word. Use the same technique. The same repetition. Bring the dog in. Put the dog in a sit or a down state. Walk over. Do your investigation. Come back. Put the tracking collar on. Hook them up to the lead. Bring them back over and start them from there. Find what works for you and be consistent with it. I think that's probably the most important part with training is that patience and that consistency. And have fun. This is a fun sport, as I said before. If you don't make it fun for you and for the dog, one or both of you